Hello, welcome to the 25th day of June 2025. My name is Kurt, and this is my daily Good Life meditation, an exercise that I do each morning around 5:30 a.m. to remember my life objectives and principles, those which are outlined in my book, Going Alone. I also use the time to think about the last 24 hours and how I did with the challenges and the opportunities that I met. I go over my creed, and I plan for the coming day. But first, let me say a quick welcome to new subscribers to the channel. It's great to have you here. A quick disclaimer that this is a personal video. I'll be talking about my life, and think of it as looking over my shoulder while I'm writing in my journal. And so don't be surprised if I'm talking about personal stuff. Some stuff is stuff that makes people uncomfortable. My perspectives on life, the universe, and everything. And in particular death, that I will talk about. And finally, a big thank you to my subscribers, those who watch my videos, the members on YouTube, and my Patreon supporters. All right, so let's get into it. I do read comments, but I wait until the end and do it then. I read and respond then. So let's get started. I'm going to do three things now. I'll talk about the last 24 hours. I'll go over my creed, and I'll prepare for today. I keep a notebook every day, and for the last 24 hours, I have just a simple note that says, full and rich day. Now, before I begin to sound like I'm overly congratulatory regarding my last 24 hours, it's not that. It's not like, I spent the day jet skiing and enjoying, a long meals at the harbor yacht club. It's not like that. That's not what I mean by full and rich day. What that means is that I felt like I believe, I think. It's not a feeling, it's a thought. I think that yesterday was a good example of fulfilling a couple of my objectives, namely the good and effective use of time, balance. I should use hashtag time, the good and effective use of time, which is my second objective in my creed. Balance, keeping my balance by pulling the throttle back, even though I was actively engaged all day long in useful tasks. I throttled back so that I was, if you saw yesterday's video or the day before, actually, I was talking about my increased incompetence in life, especially in Japan, due largely to my age and the fact that I'm in a situation, in a paradigm here where I don't fit well. And boy, and I think that was on Monday that I talked about that in the video. That's had a really profound effect this week. Because instead of, it's all day long, every day, that I run across these said incompetencies. I could begin to list them, but it doesn't seem necessary. But now that I have that in my mind, instead of being surprised by it every time, hashtag limits, another one of my principles. That's an objective, actually. I think it's objective number 4, the recognition of true limits and true opportunities. I simply noted it as, here's another case of that happening. Here's another instance. And that happened at least 3 times yesterday. All right. The fact of my clumsily coming up against my limit in this Japanese situation, a particular limit that I wouldn't be facing if I were back in America. I simply remind myself, here's another instance of that hurt. It's been very helpful, and it's contributed to this full and rich day. So more to the point, it was a full and rich day because I lived the day very actively engaged, doing useful things all day long, and in alignment and abiding my values. I mean, what could be more fulfilling than that? living and doing well in alignment with what is important to us. Now, I can only do that because I clearly know what's important to me. It's important to me to make good use of my time, to do things carefully and slowly, to maintain my balance, to have a sense that what I'm doing proceeds to improve the balance of virtue in the world, where virtue is defined as decisions and actions that improve the well-being of thinking creatures. These are all very clear, almost tactile things. And you know when you're doing it. And I felt it all day long yesterday. You see, I haven't talked about anything particular yet. I haven't said, and remember the note for yesterday was a full and rich day. And I haven't told you a single particular about what I did yesterday, because the particulars are not relevant to the attitude and the frame of mind that I had in passing through the day, which is what yielded a good and a full and productive day. I guess this is, in second sight, this is a real and deep benefit of being retired, because just a year ago, as I finished up my career, a full and productive, I think today's a Thursday. Yesterday would have been a Wednesday. A full and productive Wednesday would have been defined as a day where I successfully completed 5 to 7 hour-long meetings, completed the agenda of each of those meetings, came out with the action items, finished off with the notes, communicated those notes to the team, and performed the various tasks relevant to the, on average, 3 projects that I ran. That would have been the definition. Basically, did I spend my Wednesday in alignment with and furthering the goals of the tasks assigned to me as an IT project manager, the projects assigned to me as an IT project manager. It's a very different metric, key performance indicator, huh? Now, oh boy, now I get to spend my day doing things one after another, to which the thing themselves is irrelevant, largely irrelevant to the measure of full and richness. The fullness and the richness of the day come from my ability to adhere to my values. Ooh, boy, that's a kind of a first time I've seen that. This is a real boon of retirement. I mean, you can do this, of course, in that other paradigm. I just wasn't adept at it then. I couldn't. I was too haggard and fatigued and stressed each day, and including weekends, because it's a lot of weight to carry, and including, pile on top of that, the weight of being a father and of parenting and of marriage and all that stuff. It's a lot of weight just to get through the grind. What is it? Maslow's hierarchy of need, right? Maslow's hierarchy of need says it stacks. It provides a stack of things that we have to attend to, that need to be attended, and it starts with our basics, warmth and survival, food and nutrition, etc. And when you attend to each of those, and you finally get to a certain point, you can begin to attend to the more not metaphysical, that's not the right word, the more philosophical elements of life. The idea, sense of fulfillment, the sense of alignment with values. But you can't get to that if you're starving to death. You can't get to that if you're huddled in a cave in a rainstorm because you don't have shelter. You can't get that if you're being hunted by a saber-toothed tiger. Or you can't get there if you're a hunter-gatherer and your child is starving to death because you have been unsuccessful at the hunt for 3 days straight. You get my point, right? So now that I'm retired, and basically by definition, all that stack, I can't help but think of it as like a software stack, right? That stack is fulfilled. I mean, I don't have to worry about money. I don't have to worry about shelter. I don't have to worry about bills. I don't have to worry about health insurance. It's covered. I don't these things that were part and part. I don't have to worry about making my boss happy anymore. And as a result of all of that stuff being, and plus more, lots of big stack of stuff. And I'm not bragging. Remember, this is my personal journal, so I can go anywhere I want. I can reflect on things. I can look at things in any way that I want. Now that I don't have to attend to any of those things, I really, really do have time to stand or sit on my little balcony overlooking the bamboo forest and reflect on the big meta questions of life, the things that I attempted to tackle in my mid-adulthood when I experienced and wrote Going Alone, that I finally get to take a breather and think about in earnest. So, a lot wrapped up in that yesterday's note of a full and rich day. Again, not champagne dreams and caviar lunches. That's not what that full and rich day meant. It means a day spent earnestly striving to live in accordance with my values, to extract out 24 hours of good yield, good living, that living that I can be proud of. And it really was. And so I did spend a lot of time, and I still haven't talked about a single thing that I did yesterday. I will. There's at least one thing I want to talk about. I may save that for the third part of this exercise, talking about the coming day. But yesterday really was a full and a rich day. And you know what? It didn't involve sharing. What it really involved was slow, measured, and deliberate movement through the decided tasks that I chose to undertake. There was a lot of silence yesterday. Now, my wife, Yumiko, is by her nature, being one herself and being Japanese, not a talkative person. So, and her family, neither is her family. They'll sit, we'll have dinner together, and they'll sit there in quiet the whole meal through. That's just their way. You know, once in a while, someone will raise some anecdote through the day or explain it, but they're very comfortable with that. And I've long admired that, excuse me, that ability to be at peace with quiet. You know, my nature is to be very talkative, and I was raised in a very talkative family. We filled our meal times, even though I had a very dysfunctional family. Before the dysfunction set in, we always had meals together, and we always filled it with anecdotes and sharing and questions and probing about the day. It was very interesting. So I'm that way by nature. But now that I'm seeking after the good use of time, balance, readiness for death, I don't have as much patience or interest, that's a better word, in just filling time. In fact, largely due to this balcony where, you know, I spend a pretty good deal of time just sitting or standing, doing nothing. There's enough going on around me here at these interesting levels of depth. This bamboo forest has these layers, and there's activity going on, and then the forest beyond is layer after layer. It's this thing, and the sound of the river, the auditory sound, the periodic sound of the bullet train whizzing by far off in the distance. You won't notice it unless you're kind of really tuned in. The chime of the wind chime, the birds over there, the sound of neighbors off in the distance. You know, just the right distance. Everything is. I was thinking about this yesterday. I couldn't have designed this better. Everything is just at the right distance. It's just the right distance, in fact, that I can actually play music. I've got a really nice audio system here in the room. You'll rarely hear it, but I can play music loud enough to hear out here. And I've tested it. I've turned the music up to the volume that I like to listen to, and stepped out and walked around the field out there, and you can't hear it. Can't hear it over there. And you could barely hear it, the neighbor's house over, but there's nobody there during the day because they're all out working. The whole neighborhood's empty. So you get the point. This is a good venue for meditative living. I'm not saying meditation, I'm saying meditative living. Just standing here, breathing, and not even thinking. Now, why am I saying that? Well, back to this full and rich day. Part of the day was taking a note from the observations of my wife and her family, being more comfortable with silence. And it's not something I have to force to do now that I've come back to Japan. And I think it's a consequence of the fact that I'm retired again. Retiring has had a huge impact on me. I don't feel the need to fill it. For example, I notice it mostly distinctly, acutely might be the right word, when I'm driving. Because I drive. My wife doesn't like to drive. So if we're together, even though she's a better driver than me here in Japan, I drive. And I told you that I've reclaimed my ability to drive by slowing down, not listening to music when I'm in the car, and I don't talk to anybody in the car. I just drive, and I do the thing. I'm a licensed driving instructor, so I do the thing I always taught my students to do, which is to look ahead one signal and beyond, to attend to what's going on, anticipate what's happening, keep a 360 going on through the mirrors, looking over the shoulders, being aware of things. I'm coming back to the things that I once taught students how to do, but I'm doing it here quietly, attentively, and that has had a couple of things. One, it's improved and it's slowed everything down. One, it's improved my driving. I'm not making scary mistakes anymore. Whew. Two, it's really improved my sense of peace. Now, standing here, having this exercise, standing here or sitting here on my balcony for 5 minutes at a time and just existing has also leveraged into the activities that I do when I'm around. Because I'll sit here, I spend a lot of time here. My wife and I are together pretty much all the time, although we're separated by rooms. She's in the room directly below me. Her domain is the first floor. My domain is the second floor. And she's down there with Ollie the black dog, and I'm up here with Rudy the white dog. And we come together throughout the day for dog walks, to have meals together, to go shopping. It's a really good arrangement, because she does what she wants, I do what I want, and we come together and spend our time. Emily was right. She was once I heard her describing my wife and I together to a friend of hers, and she said to them that my mom and dad they're always together. We are always together, but we're not always together, right? You get what I mean? So 5 minutes here, I'm not meditating, I'm not closing my eyes, I'm not doing anything, I'm just sitting here. And then Yumiko calls up and says, should we go to the drugstore together? And I said, you bet. And I grab my thing, I've got the things, and I grab the thing, we go downstairs and off we go. And I take that circumstance, this situation with me out the door, and I'm sitting in the car and it carries with me, and we go off to the drugstore, and I do the thing the old guys here in Japan do, fold the arms behind me at the store, because I don't know what the heck we're doing there. Yumiko, she tends to all of the stuff that she does, and I just wander around or follow her. You get the point. I think I've described it enough. Yesterday was a full and rich day, and interestingly, I shared almost none of it with anybody. I think I might have done one. I did 2 posts relative to my business, and I think I did 1 post relative to the meal that Yumiko made the night before, but I didn't do anything else. That's interesting too. Okay, let's move on to my creed. Yesterday was a good day, good and full and rich day. Let's move on to the creed. Now, my creed, called The Good Life, is and I don't call it The Good Life in a gratuitous sense to congratulate myself that I am living a good life. That's not the point. The good life is the objective. I'm borrowing this from Stoic tradition, where a good life is a life lived in accordance with one's values, making good use of time, recognizing our limits, understanding that the only thing in the end that we can really control is how we respond to the world around us. It's not the things, not the circumstances themselves that hurt us, but our reactions to them, how we view them and think about them. So my titling my creed, The Good Life, is a nod to that tradition. In the chapter titled The Good Life, which is near the back here, I have all 8 of my objectives and 35 of my principles laid out in great detail. It took me many years to lay that out. That's not what the whole book about. The book is the adventure of going alone, the experience that led me to develop that creed, the necessity that is the foundation of why I wrote the Good Life Creed. So every morning at this time, I go over my 8 objectives and think of this as like a helmsman on a ship, checking the nautical compass, having a glance at the sun or the moon or the stars, maybe taking a reading with the sextant, and aligning the ship with the compass heading that they want to follow to get to wherever they're going. That's what I'm doing now. And I do it every day, midway through this exercise, by doing the following thing. All I require of myself is to simply recite, to state the 8 objectives. I don't have to go into any detail at all. If I want to, I can talk about a principle too. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. I've been doing this for a long time, every day, and it's had a profound and deep impact on me. Deep insofar as it's one thing to have written down an idea in your book, in your journal, and then to close the journal and put it away, which it becomes every day a little more distant and maybe a little more forgotten. It's another thing to write that thing down, to then pick it up every day and examine it and ask yourself, is this worthwhile? Is this really good? Is this right? And to think about it in the light of the new day, having the experience of another 24 hours under our belt, to maybe make an adjustment here and there, tune it a little bit, scratch something out, write something new, adjust, put it back, close it, go on with another day. Wake up the next morning and do the same. And that's what I'm doing when I'm going over this creed. Now, at this point, since having doing this every day since December 2018, I don't make any changes anymore. The 8 objectives and 35 principles, they started off as 5 objectives and 3 principles that had grown quite a bit and changed a great deal. It's not changing much anymore because I think I've got it well tuned. It took me years to get it to that point, about 5 years from the point that I created the creed until basically it is complete, I think. I'm not saying I won't make any more changes, but I haven't made any changes for quite a long time. So all I need to do now is just touch them. So I'm going to do that now. I'm going to recite the 8 objectives. Number 1, and this is the most important one, because if I can fulfill this objective, then all the rest essentially falls into place in terms of fulfilling what would constitute a meaningful life, a worthwhile life. And this is, and I warned you I'd talk about death, this is to ask myself, am I ready to die right now? Now, I don't have to scramble to quantify or qualify even what that means. I know what it means. It means I have to be able to say yes to the following 3 questions. First, are my affairs in order? Well, why is that important? Well, because I'll be dead. My family hopefully will remain. I want to make sure that I don't leave them a mess. I have carried a lot of responsibility in the course of my adult life. That responsibility is now to the point that it has enough inertia, enough momentum on its own, or I should say the fruits of that responsibility, that what I've created by living up to that responsibility, namely 40 hard years of work at the coalface, can now sustain my wife for the rest of her life. I need to make sure that if I die, that everything's in place so that that can actually happen. So ask myself, are my affairs in order? Will my wife be okay if I die today? Yeah, she will. So yes, number 1 is a good yes. A heads up, what do they call it? When you give away the facts, I can't remember. They're all yes. Number two, um, are my relationships sound? Now, I didn't say I didn't. I worded that very carefully. It's not are my relationships good or are my relationships happy. It's are my relationships sound. That means if I were to knock on them like a piece of wood, are my relationships with others hollow in any way? Now, it's hard to avoid rot when we're dealing with the human side of things, but I have to think about all the important people in my life. Is there anybody that I have basically unfinished business to attend to? So that's a short list. It's my wife and my daughter, my brother and his kids, and my mom. Sure, I have friends as well, but they're kind of on a different plane, right? So I could enumerate them. I don't have a lot of friends, but I have some. So I have to ask myself, in going through each one of them, is there anybody that I have an unsound relationship? Again, using the word sound, not good. Is there anybody whose relationship with I have unsound? No. But you might be thinking, hey, Kurt, I've seen enough of these videos. I know you have an awful relationship with your mother. It's true, I do. I don't have a good relationship with my mom at all. But it is sound. Well, how can it be sound if you don't have a good relationship? Well, it is sound to the extent that it's like kind of like having let me see how I can say this. My mom isn't here to defend herself, so I don't want to go into details that impugn her in any way, but I do also want to be honest. Well, let me try to track this carefully. My mom is a bit of a dangerous person. I've long ago given up any hope of having a good relationship with her. The best I can hope for is to have a relationship with her such that I can fulfill my filial duty, my duty to her as my son, as her son, that when she finally reaches the age where she can no longer take care of herself and she needs one of her sons or somebody to step in and help, that I can do that. That doesn't mean we're going to be friends. It doesn't mean that we're going to mend ways or things are going to be better. It just simply means that she'll be able to contact me and let me know, Kurt, I've slipped and fell and broke my hip and I'm in a hospital. Oh my gosh. And then my brother and I, because he and I are actively engaged in this together, will step into action. Now, fortunately, my brother is going to be retired in 6 months, so he's very close to her in terms of distance. He also has a very poor relationship, worse than mine. His relationship is worse than mine because he hasn't taken the same approach that I have, which is the Stoic approach of recognizing what we can and cannot control, and not necessarily being. I'm not angry. I'm not angry at my mom. I don't blame my mom for the pain that she deliberately attempts to inflict upon her family. I simply see it as something that's beyond my control, and hashtag limits, recognize that what I can control is how I respond to it and how I set up and establish a relationship with her so that I can be that conduit, that communication is there so that I can attend to her when she needs me. So you see what I mean? That's the sound part, right? Doesn't mean I have a good relationship with my mom, but it's sound, and it definitely is. Yeah, I'll know when she needs me and I'll be able to step in. Okay, so yeah, so are my relationships sound? Yeah, they are. So the second question is a yes. The third question is my life's work complete? Now, I'm 61, so I can use the word complete. If I was younger, I would say, is my life wishfully incomplete? But I mean, if I was 40 years old, I wouldn't necessarily expect it to be complete. I was still sorting it out then. So I would change it a little bit. I would say, is my life, are my affairs in a clean state? Namely, think about it this way. If I were to die today and my wife and daughter, they tend to me, then they have to attend to their affairs. And my wife realizes, yep, she's taken care of. She's good for life. And then my daughter maybe comes up to my room and says, well, where's Dad's papers? And what she'll find is a very clean, organized room. I don't have papers scattered about. I don't have, I have a file cabinet with all the important documents. That's part and parcel of the first one, having the affairs in order. All the documents are laid out there, all the passwords to everything. The bank accounts are all listed out. Contact information. I've already established Yumiko as in joint custody of everything. My last will and testament. It's all in there. What I want happening to my my mortal remains after I'm gone. All that stuff's in that file, so that's clear. That attends to the first one. Other than that, there's nothing else. I threw out all my journals. I've been keeping journals all my life. I threw all that, so there's no need for Emily to have to sort through boxes and boxes. I had boxes and boxes of journals. She won't have to sort through any of that. She'll find one book, this, sitting on a shelf next to a few little artifacts from my life, every one of which I've explained to her. And I've done this deliberately with my daughter because she's the one that will succeed the rest of us, my wife and I. Emily knows that this is my life's work besides her, because my other life's work, my main life's work, is her. And she knows that. Raising her to be a good adult human being was my life's work. That's complete. She is now a good adult human being, good per the definitions that I apply in my creed. My other life's work, the bonus life's work, was to live a deliberate life, fronting, as Thoreau would say, the essentials, so that when I came to the end of that life, again, continuing my quotation of Thoreau from Walden, so that when I come to the end of my life, I do not discover that I had not lived at all. Hashtag good use of time. This book, that's all there is. So Emily will come up, she'll find the files, and she already knows where they are with the passwords and everything like that, so she and her mother can take care of my wife to make sure my wife's taken care of for the rest of her life, plus so that Emily has access to everything else that once we're both dead. And they'll find this book and just a small handful of trinkets. Emily, if she wants to keep some memory of Dad after I'm gone, she literally could just take this and a few books, two things you could fit on two hands like this, take it to her apartment, put it on a little shelf. There's the memory of Dad. That's all. No box of journals to have to go through. No box of papers unsorted, manuscripts unfinished. I've written every book I want to write. I've done all the adventures I want to do. I've completed everything that I wanted to do. It doesn't mean my life is done. It's just that I identified early on what was the most important to me, which was to be a good father, to succeed as a father, to be a good provider, to succeed as a provider, and to live a deliberate life, and to document and chronicle the result of that deliberate effort. Done, done, done. As a result, yes, yes, and yes. My life's work is complete, my relationships are sound, and my affairs are in order. I can die now, and as I like to say it, if I die all of a sudden, I keel over frontways, and my family's standing behind me, and my consciousness is winking out. I want to be able to go down in such a way that I don't even have the urge to look back and say goodbye, because I've done it all. I've done it all means I've attended to all of that, right? My daughter was here over the weekend, and one of the last things I said to her as we dropped her off at the train station was, Emily, I'm very proud of you. You're doing really well, and just remember that your mother and I are here for you. Always have a home with us. Now, of course, I won't be here for her anymore if I'm dead, but I communicated to her my feelings about and my message about how I feel about the good woman that she's turned out to be. So there's nothing to turn around and say. There's nothing to say. Just keel over, die, go into death. I can meet the first objective of my creed, which is to be ready to die. I am definitely ready to die. We'll see what happens when it actually comes down to it, right? I mean, let's see. Maybe I'll actually die screaming but who knows? Because maybe there's some element of life that I haven't uncovered, that I haven't accounted for. We'll see. I'll attend to that when I come to it. Hashtag limits. Now, number 2, the second objective, is to make good and effective use of my time. I've already gone over that a lot in the first part of this day's creed, this day's recitation of the creed, and this exercise. So, number 2, good and effective use of time. Number 3 is to develop and maintain good and sound life principles. I already talked about that one as well. That was the creed that I wrote and included in my book. And I attend to it every day, as I'm doing right now. Number 4 is to always ready to die, to make good and effective use of time, to develop and maintain good and sound life principles, to cultivate good emotional reactions so that I'm responding well when things go bad. Boy, I'll tell you, that's becoming much easier lately. It's really hard for life to trip me up anymore. Well, it's not because I'm necessarily getting better at this. It's because I think it's because I'm retired, and I just live in more of a bubble, an earned bubble, right? The bubble where life can't trip me up because it can't reach me so much here. 5 is to perform good actions relative to my creed. 6, to recognize my true limits and my true opportunities. I've already talked about that. 7, to do just one thing at a time and do that thing slowly and deliberately and carefully, as I'm doing right now. This is not natural. I don't naturally speak in these measured tones. This is deliberate, but I do it so deliberately now, and I've been doing it deliberately for so long that it's become part and parcel of who I am, even though it's not my natural way of being. And number 8 is to maintain my balance so that I'm not easily put off my feet in either my mind or my body. And I usually, if I've got the book handy, I'll read one principle from the book. Today, let's go ahead and find and read The Season of Philosophy, and a quote. So the book in the chapter, The Good Life, has each of the principles broken down. You can see it is right there, The Season of Philosophy. And the quote here is from Seneca the Younger. Philosophy wields her own authority. She appoints her own time and does not allow it to be appointed for her. My words now. Think and record your thoughts while you can. See how the sun is fading now, dropping near the horizon? You will not survive the coming night. If you fail to record your words today, right now, they will never come again. Or maybe if the words arrive again in some new form, some distant day hence, you will have the body, will, or constitution to record what you hear. Wait, hold on, did I read that right? Or maybe if the words arrive again in some new form, some distant day hence, will you have the body? That's right. Will you have the body, will, or constitution to record what you hear? Will your mind still function well enough to put the words together in the correct order? Will you have enough energy, then, for the effort? Will your hands perhaps tremble too much, or your medicine dull your nerves, or your broken self simply refuse to cooperate? Will you remain tuned to the muse? Oh boy, that's interesting to read that now, having lost the muse myself, no longer tuned. These are very real risks, so instead, keep a pad and pencil handy now, or a recorder or camera, and pull yourself aside when the muse speaks. Attend to her words and prepare your thoughts and philosophy as best you can while you can. So the Season of Philosophy, I included that principle in the book as a reminder to myself that there are seasons when ideas seem to ripen, like the fruit on my little mulberry tree or the plum tree there in the garden. They ripen and they're ready. And if you attend to them in their season, you can enjoy that fruit. This fruit, of course, now being the fruit of recording thoughts, writing down our observations, giving us the material which we can use to develop further. If we don't do it when the words are there, when the thought is ripe, it will rot. Like there's a plum tree right over there, an enormous plum tree that just a week ago was dotted with little bits of red. And I went out there one day and I pulled one down and it was the most delicious plum that I enjoyed. They're all gone. I kept telling myself, I'll go out there and I'll get a few plums off the plum tree. And I never did. And now they're all gone. That's what it is with the seasonal philosophy, but with ideas rather than plums. So when the idea comes, put the pen to paper, lift the camera, start the record button, and get it down. Doesn't mean you'll keep it forever. Like me, you might choose to throw out your journals when you get old enough to realize that you've distilled out what was important from that body of work. That's why I threw them out. I didn't want to keep the words, the confused tangle of words of my 20s, 30s, 40s around after I had already distilled out what was important from it. One little story. I remember reading about a poet, a poetress, a woman who she wrote poetry, I think it was in the early 20th century, in the middle of the United States. She lived on a farm with her family, and she described how the ideas, the poems would come to her like a wind crossing the prairie. And she described literally how, excuse me, she would be out helping her father in the field, and she could feel a poem, the words arising, and it was like a wind coming across the big land that they were farming. And she would drop whatever implement, whatever tool she was doing, and she would race back to the house in time to get to her room and write down whatever words were coming to her at that moment, because she knew that if she didn't get back to the house quick enough and write them down, that as the wind passed the farm and blew off to the next farm, so too the words and inspiration would be gone and the poem would be gone. That was a really moving observation for me to read, because that's how it's always been with me. Ideas come in a moment. It's why I keep a journal with me all the time. Ideas come with me in a moment and I write them down. And it was the writing of those ideas in a period of time that I was living alone in the United States, going to the desert, that yielded this book. Now all the material that I wrote to get to there, I've thrown it all away. It wasn't necessary. It was just the journal entries, but the journals yielded the book. That's what I mean by the season of philosophy. All right, let's carry on to the last part of this exercise, which is to go over my plan for today. I have a very practical thing that I'm going to do today. Of course, I'm going to list an item in my store. Really, the focus of my life right now is kind of revolved down to the good use of time, right? I mean, I have these days that are my own, that I can do with as I see fit, and I want to make good use of that time. And I've also discovered that maybe because of so much practice at work, I'm not one that does well with freedom. I need the structure of what looks like a job, what feels like a job even, the satisfaction of that, to feel good about my days. And it needs to be something that's meaningful and interesting. But I don't want to do stressful stuff anymore. I don't want to be a project manager anymore. I certainly don't want to be an English teacher. There's a lot of things that I don't want to do. I do like doing this. I do like promoting my book. I do like making some videos on YouTube. I really enjoy my antique business. So what I'm going to do today is one, listing, and I'm also going to work a little bit on my eBay store. I have two venues now where I'm selling. One I call my YouTube store, which is the fourth wall store that feeds into my YouTube channel and populates my videos with items that people can buy, antiques. And that fourth wall store is a highly curated boutique of really interesting antique items, right? And I don't have merchandise there. except right now I'm selling tea there. And but I'm getting requests from people for more stuff. Like people that have bought the tea have written and said, hey, we'd really like to have some senbei rice crackers to go with that too. Well, I don't want to start putting rice crackers amongst all the antiques. You kind of get it? Like, what if you had a really nicely curated antique store and you're going through and there's all these lovely little things all nicely arranged, and then there's a bag of potato chips for sale. Right? It kind of takes away from the ambience of the thing. So and I encountered this problem before when I was an antique dealer too, and I just went ahead and mixed them all together, and it was not a good result. So I came up with an idea yesterday to address this, and that is I'm going to have the two venues. I'm going to have the fourth wall, aka the eBay store for the antiques, highly curated boutique, and then I'm also going to have my eBay store, which I already have, um, and that's going to be my merchandise place. So if people, so when people are watching my videos on YouTube, they're going to have interactions and experiences with really beautiful antiques as well. If someone writes to me or if they dig a little deeper, because I'm going to put information in all of the antique listings saying, hey, I also have a merchandise shop over here on eBay. I'm going to send people over there. Now, can you see the excitement? This is fun. I like work. I like doing things that are productive, that make money to a degree, right? I mean, it's fun to do that. I'm going to create this shop, and I've got it all figured out, and I worked it all out yesterday in my mind, um, and today I'm going to put it to practice. That's the goal for today. That's it. Now, let's go ahead and read comments before I need to get out of here and go do radio exercise. I've been missing the radio exercise a couple of times because I can't keep track of the time when I'm doing this, and I do this right on past the exercise. Dr. J. Matt Buchanan. Hi, Kurt. Good to see you. Good to see you, Dr. Buchanan. Dr. Buchanan goes on. I don't perceive you as having incompetencies, Kurt. Competence is such a spectrum. Well, I would say that my incompetency that I'm referring to is the incompetency of being a foreigner who doesn't speak Japanese very well, and a senior citizen living in said foreign country. Things that I can do well in my own country at this age don't easily translate into competency here. And whereas in my 40s, when I lived here before, I could get away with it by ignoring the fact. I could brush it aside, again, a form of ignoring it, not dealing with it. And also, I was better at dealing with things. I was younger. Now I'm not so good at it. My incompetency is deep and profound. And when I'm engaging with, oh, there's a giant hornet. Right there. Do you see it? Where'd it go? No, that was an Asian giant hornet. They just came to visit me. My incompetencies are rich and deep and seemingly never ending at this point of my life here in Japan. And I'm taking aims, as I said in the preceding 48 minutes. Oh, I gotta go. The Radio Taiso is about to start. Sorry if I have to go quickly, everybody. Dr. Buchanan goes on. Competence is like truth, beauty, and contact lenses is the eye of the beholder. Ooh, that's a good one. Penguin, hi Tim. Good morning. Before I retired, I decided to set myself realistic expectations in retirement and to enjoy a simpler, still fulfilling days once in retirement. Sounds like a good plan. You and I have kind of talked, so to speak, before about this, over this venue, Tim. Trading back and forth. Hi, Michael. Tim goes on. I remember a week before I finished work, all my friends and work colleagues said, you are all set to go jetting off around the world, which would be nice, but unsure it would be as fulfilling. I think you're right. I kind of feel like I did that coming here, and you're right, it was fulfilling for a couple of months. Really, maybe a couple of weeks. Tim goes on. Just being retired and not being in the humdrum work environment felt enough. Kind of strange. I guess the world is your oyster. Just how you live it is your own satisfaction. Was thinking the same, Kurt. You have an almost idyllic location to just relax. I spend the afternoon in the garden, just listening to the birds, insects. Just felt great, so stress-free. That's wonderful. Bokanevik, is that Victor? I'm only 38. I know I'm young, but I'm also a combat veteran with a disability pension and of degraded health as a byproduct. Sorry to hear that, and thank you for your service. I feel like I live to work on a daily basis in order to set an example and provide a better standard for living for my kids. Metrics, KPIs, success indicators. I've come to abhor these terms. I do work as a security engineer with a passion for the craft, but very little for the industries I have to do them for. My present goal is to see my kids grown and moved on so I can stop, breathe, reflect, find myself, if such a thing can be found. I can relate. That's how it feels for me right now. My kid gone and coming back. It was really interesting. She was here over the full weekend, and to hear her describing her entrance into the work world and the challenges therein, not with complaining, but with, here, this is really interesting. Let me see how I can handle that. Seeing her kind of stepping forward. She wasn't running. Her talk wasn't talk of running away from the challenges. It was one of how can I find a way through these? You know, how can I, and not asking for any advice or help, but just like talking aloud. I was like, wow. So yeah, if that's what you're looking for to get to that, it's very satisfying to get there, Tim. Victor, I think that's Victor. This is why I maintain that I find comfort in your reflections when I can catch them in your daily videos. I love the serenity and dedication to a daily practice of reflection and preparedness. Thank you. Jones 227 says, if your life's work is complete, or if I may ask, what goals do you have for the future? The goals for the future are very simple: to live my remaining days in accordance with my values. So again, living according to the roadmap that I outlined in Going Alone. Namely, to live a virtuous life where the decisions and the action that I make help to contribute to the improved well-being of thinking creatures. That's basically it. Hi, Sam. I do really enjoy keeping a journal, just writing whatever I want, but also keeping data and being mindful of what happens. Tim says, just wanted to check, Kurt, are you okay to ship from your store to the UK? Thanks, Tim. Yes, I am. I'm all set. I can ship anywhere in the world. Well, guys, I need to finish. I have about just a few minutes to get up the street to do radio exercise. It was good to see so many folks here today. Thanks for joining me for so long. Great thing, Tim. I'm glad to hear. I've got a lot of stuff I'm going to be adding in the next couple of weeks, Tim. So there's going to be some interesting stuff. And with the eBay store, I'm going to be working on that so that I can have free shipping, and then for bulk orders over there, because it's like I don't want to buy a bag of senbei and then charge people $15 to ship it, right? That's not going to work. So I'm working on the shipping arrangement on the eBay. That's coming in the weeks ahead. Okay, take care, everybody. Be safe, but not too safe. It is Victor. Yes. All right. Have a good see, Victor. Your trick that you learned from Tim worked, right? I remember you. Thanks, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.